As the ancients passed down this ridgeway, many of them would have been travelling from very, very far up north. And as they came down, they would have been preparing to arrive at the sanctuary about 2 miles south. It was from the sanctuary that all the eastern processions were made into Avebury. But as they came down, the ancients decided to enhance the progression down here. And so from Old Chapel, about 2.5 miles away, walking down, they would have noticed a weird phenomenon. They would have noticed the top of Silbury Hill, the biggest human construction in the whole of Europe, passing along the top of Waden Hill. Now, in the Neolithic time, Silbury would have been white. And so what they would have seen was the top 30 feet just shimmering. And as they moved along, they would realize that they had no idea what they were seeing. The ancients are walking down, freaking out. It's a psychological plot to totally blow their minds. Only at this point does Silbury stop riding on the back of Waden Hill to be revealed as the largest, single largest mound that these people would ever have seen. At this point, the sacred landscape opens up to them. Silbury! Silbury, the center of the sacred landscape. Avebury Stone Circle is the biggest stone circle in Europe, the biggest stone circle in the world, but Silbury is the center of everything. The omphalos, the navel. 5,000 years ago, Silbury was white, entirely made of chalk. They kept it white to keep it prominent in the landscape. And yet, they built it on a valley floor, because this is from a time when people didn't try to make these big, priapic, phallic monuments. They weren't trying to make it just purely impressive. To a certain extent, Silbury is hidden. And yet, when you travel around this huge landscape, you see it from everywhere. Silbury was the world hill, I think. Some people say it was the eye, the all-seeing eye, which you can see as you travel across the landscape, but can see you. Walking down from the sanctuary, we come to the West Kennet Avenue. The West Kennet Avenue led us right down into the great circle at Avebury. When we're looking at a monument the size of Avebury, we're talking about throngs, crowds of people who've come from miles and miles. It's also likely that people stood on either side of the ancient avenue and watched significant characters themselves walking down. So here we are in the Great Avebury Henge, the biggest stone circle in the world. A gigantic amphitheatre. We've come down from the ridgeway. The ancients would have been travelling for days. They would have collected at the sanctuary. We've come down the West Kennet Avenue, and we finally burst into this huge, huge earth circle. And though Silbury is the centre, Avebury is the place where they would have gathered. Thousands of people thronging this centre. If we think of Mecca and what Mecca means to Islam, then people travel for many days to Mecca. They make a perambulation, then they travel down into the Kaaba, and then they get right down into the centre, and in the centre is the Great Stone. This is very much the same thing. There's a quote in the Old Testament that says, "If thou makest me a temple, make it of unhewn stone, For if thou raise thy tool against it, thou hast polluted it. It seems to me that Avebury is an example of that period of natural temple. We're at West Kennet Longbarrow, looking north to Silbury. Silbury is the hub of this great Neolithic wheel. The landscape is constantly disorientating us as we travel around, but wherever we are, we keep going back to Silbury as the centre. Everything I've done for the last decade has been based on centering myself in this landscape, allowing myself to walk around this place, to slow myself down to this pace. You've just got to look beyond your own culture. That's the way you can read between the lines and see. I think that is my job.